Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. And another heavyweight news mashup video today, starting with Dillian Whyte and Alexander Povetkin, with their fight on August the 22nd, also going to be for the WBC Diamond Belt. So this is slightly quizzical because Dillian Whyte is already the WBC interim champion. So he is considered a champion by the WBC. And a diamond belt, it's normally put on the line for a couple of guys in a very significant fight in the WBC, but not necessarily considered champions. So for me, it's a little bit quizzical, but Mauricio Suleiman, WBC president, has said, I'm very excited about it. I believe this fight has all the merits for the WBC to award the prestigious Diamond Belt. Both are sensational fighters. Povetkin and Whyte are former silver champions of the WBC. They have been training in extreme circumstances and they are very professional. The WBC is delighted to be part of the fight as the WBC Interim Championship and also to award the Diamond Belt, which is a special trophy to recognise this great bout. So it's unclear if the WBC is also putting this on the line with double fees involved, but it's a sanctioning body, so you can't really rule it out. But I guess another piece of hardware on the line for what it means. I mean, who really knows? These days, belts are a dime a dozen. But remember, Dillian Whyte and Tyson Fury, a year or so ago, when they were talking about potentially fighting, the WBC offered to put up the Diamond Belt in that circumstance. But obviously that fight never came to pass. And more recently, with Tyson Fury being champion, his promoters have said they're not interested in giving Dillian Whyte a fight, even though if he beats Alexander Povetkin, he remains the champion, and the WBC has said it will enforce the mandatory as being next. Meanwhile, Alen Babich, who is the Dillian Whyte managed prospect, currently 3-0. He is set to be on the August the 22nd card. He is the fifth fight on that bill. It looks like his opponent is going to be American Shawdell Winters. And I've heard that from a number of sources who have approached me direct. And even if you see here on Alen Babich's Instagram, this post here, he says, of Dillian Whyte, on 22nd, my friend and I are going to war with Povetkin and Winters. Watch and support us because you don't want to miss that fight night. Believe me. And Martin Mikalajik, who manages Shawdell Winters, see here on screen, this is a post from Mikalajik's social media. He says, Mission GB, soon more news. So it looks like it will be Alen Babich versus Shawdell Winters, but just to be officially announced. So once you see a graphic out, obviously the news will be out. But in terms of this fight, for a guy in Babich who's just got a few fights under his belt, less than 5, to face a guy like Shawdell Winters, who's had a couple of upsets in the past year or so, it's actually a pretty good fight. It's a good test for him at this stage of his career. Remembering earlier this year, Joseph Parker fought Shawdell Winters, although many considered that to be a bit of a mismatch. But I don't mind Winters and Babich at all. We'll get an indication of where Alen Babich really is and how good he is, because at this stage I think it's a little bit of a mystery. I mean, people have seen bits and pieces. He's only had a couple of fights, so it's hard to assess. The Bulgarian Kubrat Pulev, meanwhile, says that he is backing Alexander Povetkin to beat Dillian Whyte, telling the Betway Insider, I hope Povetkin wins because I know him personally and he's a good man who doesn't talk too much. Dillian Whyte talks so much, he is always twisting things, and I don't like this. A fight between Andy Ruiz Jr. and Chris Arreola, which has been long rumoured, is apparently agreed in principle now, according to Mike Coppinger, who says the fight is slated for late 2020, sources tell The Athletic. And as we know, this will be the first fight since Ruiz Jr. lost to Anthony Joshua in their rematch in December 2019. And it is the tune-up that Ruiz said he was going to be taking before he would consider a bigger fight against the likes of a Luis Ortiz. So how much we can expect from Chris Arreola at this point, being 39, against a much fresher man in Andy Ruiz Jr., who's got much better skills overall, and including hand speed. It remains a question about what Areola can do in there. But yeah, for most, this will be a tune-up for Ruiz and nothing more. But it does, given the styles, lend itself to being a fun fight for however long that it does last. The former WBO champion Joseph Parker could be back in the ring before Christmas in a fight in New Zealand. So the New Zealand Herald is reporting that negotiations have resumed and in recent weeks intensified with fellow New Zealander Junior Farr. And this is a fight that they've been talking about for some months, but it has been hot and cold in the negotiations. David Higgins, Joseph Parker's manager and advisor, has been openly goading the Farr team to take the offer. And the New Zealand Herald reports that Farr's guarantee would at least be 500,000 New Zealand dollars with some pay-per-view upside. But it quotes Higgins as saying, yes, negotiations had stalled, but there have been vigorous talks behind the scenes and the fight is a lot closer to reality than it was a couple of months ago. We've been in negotiations now for 6 months, and that's how long it took to put the Tua Cameron fight together and Parker versus Joshua, so it's nothing new in terms of that. I have to say, the Farr camp, they're still being a touch greedy, but if we can close the gap a bit, we'll have something to announce very shortly. And they are looking at various destinations within New Zealand to hold the fight. But Higgins has sort of told the outlet that given the recent sort of COVID flare-up in New Zealand, it looks like it would be closer to Christmas as opposed to October, which had been a date signalled and flagged by Eddie Hearn just a few days ago. And just rounding out this heavyweight news mashup video, Jonathan Ruiz has confirmed that he will not be on the David Benavidez and Roma Angulo undercard this weekend. There was a listing, and it's still up at the time of this video, that he is taking on Carlos Negron. So I contacted him and he told me that while the fight was offered, he accepted it. It was later cancelled. He wasn't sure why, but he will not be on that card. And it's unclear at this stage if Negron is going to be on the card too. And that's also the card where Otto Wallin and Travis Kaufman will be fighting. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.